What is Latin America? Latin America is a place, yeah, I know, a geographic location, beginning where the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans meet in the Chilean Antarctic and ending at the border between Mexico and the United States on the North American tectonic plate. It is also a people and a history. But first, how did Latin America get its name? Latin America is named as such for two reasons. First, it is Latin because the roots of its major languages are, well, Latin. Spanish and Portuguese descend from the vernacular Latin of medieval Europe. Second, it is America because an Italian navigator, Amerigo Vespucci, wrote of his travels down the coast of current-day Brazil and said it was all a new world and not the edges of known Asia as Christopher Columbus believed. Europeans argued over what to name this new place, and the Spanish wanted to name it Las Indias. In any case, the name is European-based. So why is Latin America also a people? What do I mean by that? Latin America is a people forged from possibly the most momentous clash of cultures in the history of humanity. It is at the intercourse of the European and the indigenous, when the very first of 50 million people living across what we now call the Americas came into contact with the most adventurous peoples of Southern Europe beginning in 1492, Latin America was born. A new people, never before existing on the face of the earth. Latin America begins with the first European explorations into two entire continents, which soon turned into wars of conquest. The wars of conquest lasted more than 100 years. All the while, Latin America was essentially ruled from European seats of power. That portion of the story that is Latin America is known as colonial Latin America. But when Napoleon's wars crippled European monarchies, Latin Americans established Latin American-based governments run by Latin American leaders. When that happened, beginning in 1810, the story of modern Latin America begins. So Latin America is a geographic location spanning over 6,000 miles from the continental north to south, but also including islands, whole or in part, in the Caribbean, namely Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. It is a people united by language, with a history of ever merging through countless bloody wars, violence against indigenous womankind, hostile takeovers, and sometimes submissive acquiescence between the European and the varieties of peoples and cultures already inhabiting the new to Europeans world. Latin America is the child of Europe and indigenous peoples, with every memory of this union and its aftermath being Latin American history. Across 5 centuries, Latin America has been treated in turns as illegitimate child or available mistress of Europe by Europeans, first the Spanish, later the British, and for the last 70 years, the fully recognized child of Europe, the United States of America. To say that this has been hard on Latin America could be the historical understatement of the modern era. But ever looking at Latin America through the eyes of others who may see themselves as dominant, namely Europeans and North Americans, is very problematic. Latin America is a land, a people, a history, standing as much on its own as any other complex slice of humanity in the world today. In the end, Latin America is as varied as life itself. The Quichua across Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, the Nahuatl of southern Mexico and Central America, the Guarani of the Brazilian Amazon and Paraguay. It is the Galapagos Islands, the Andes Mountains, and the Amazon rainforest. It is Easter Island, the Tierra del Fuego, and Machu Picchu. It is African American, Indigenous American, Asian American, European American, and every iteration in between. It is mulattoes and mestizos. It is women and men and children. It is Rio de Janeiro, Mexico City, Bogota, and La Paz. It is traditional Catholicism. It is indigenous animism and newfound Protestantism. It is narcotraficantes and Nobel laureates. It is an Argentinian steak presented sweltering hot, the 3,800 varieties of potatoes of Peru, the seafood ceviches of coastal Ecuador, the maize tortillas of Nicaragua. It is salsa, merengue, cumbia, ranchero, and tango. It is the quetzal, the condor, the black jaguar, the piranha, and Darwin's finches. It is arid brown, verdant green, and every color in between. It is the cloud forests of Costa Rica and the turquoise water surrounding the Dominican Republic. It is history built on more history. It is Chan Chan in Peru, Pumapungo in Ecuador, and Tecnotitlan's Templo Mayor in Mexico City. It is the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, and the ornate Spanish Baroque wood balconies of Lima, and Mexico's futuristic Sumaya Museum. Latin America is astonishingly beautiful. It is heartbreaking tragedy. It is peace and bloodshed, inequality and passionate love, family, religion, and literature. So there you have it, a minuscule answer to a question containing so much. I hope you grasp it as a worthy beginning.